Most divers think that the flutter kick is just for beginners, a clumsy, inefficient movement you're supposed to grow out of. But what if I told you, done right, it might just be the strongest thrust generator and an incredibly agile option in your diving toolkit, especially in open water and current-heavy situations. Hello fellow divers, Don here. Today, we're going to set the record straight on the flutter kick, why it matters, when it shines, and how to master it in 3 distinct styles. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to use the flutter to glide, maneuver, and power through current without killing your air supply or wrecking your trim. Let's kick it off, literally. The flutter kick. It's often treated like that awkward cousin at the scuba family reunion. People say it's inefficient, a beginner move, something to outgrow. But as mentioned, it's still an important part of the toolkit and still taught in more advanced forms of diving because it's effective and versatile. After many dives and fine-tuning my technique, I've personally noticed very little difference in gas consumption compared to the frog kick when done right. That's why I truly believe it's not about which kick you choose, but how well you control your buoyancy, trim, and kick efficiency. That is really what impacts your air use. The flutter kick gets a bad reputation, mostly because it's commonly associated with beginners. It feels more natural and easier than a frog kick. And as a beginner, you're juggling a ton of new concepts at once. That means the flutter might look a little clumsy at first, but that's true for any kick. Jumping to frog kick isn't wrong. It's great, but ignoring flutter form is a missed opportunity. Each kick has its time and place. So whether you're new or experienced, repeat after me. Flutter is part of your diving toolkit. It's worth practicing and becoming efficient with, just like the frog kick. The flutter kick moves your fins up and down, one at a time on the vertical plane. That helps you keep a very low profile on the horizontal plane, which means you can move through tight diver formations or narrow spaces where frog finning might bump things on the sides. Flutter is also a consistent motion. If you're filming like I do for this channel, it gives smoother movement and cleaner shots. Add a little bit of stabilization and it'll look great. Plus, flutter gives you the most sustained thrust of any kick in your toolkit. That makes it ideal for strong currents and emergencies. Because it's rhythmic and continuous, it also allows for fine maneuvering and speed control. Frog kick, by contrast, relies on a glide that steadily slows after each push. And to be clear, I'm not saying you should flutter around all the time and be like a torpedo. Scuba is all about slow and relaxed movement. But if you need to full steam ahead, flutter is going to be your friend. Now, flutter is often taught like it's just one universal motion, but that's not necessarily true. There are actually 3 useful variations of the flutter kick, at least in my book. Each one has its ideal use case. In this video, I'll walk you through all 3, so you know how to use each one efficiently. Do you think you know the traditional flutter kick? You might, but chances are what you've been taught is actually the sprint flutter. Basically a powerful but energy intensive method that most experienced divers use very sparingly and only for emergencies. Now, because this is the only kick divers know for flutter, it is often shunned as inefficient and tossed to the side for other forms of diving. But here's the truth, it really does have its place if you understand what it's really for and how to do it right. First, this kick is going to use your full leg for thrust, engaging your butt your thigh, and the kick will be powered through your hips. You are going to engage some massive muscles in your body, the strongest muscles in your body. If you've ever done squats or sprints in your lifetime, you understand how inefficient this move is about to get. You will be terribly winded in no time, but it is powerful. The sprint flutter involves alternating up and down leg movements, keeping your hips and thighs aligned with your back. Your toes should be pointed so as much of your fin is pointed straight back as possible. You will have a slight bend in the knee. No need to keep it locked, but you want it to be fairly straight. To do this properly, assume a hover stance. Always start in a hover stance, and that's your default position of getting back to whenever you're not moving. Your body should be flat, head facing forward and pulled back, butt flexed, knees bent, and fins pointed outward. Lift one leg from the hip, bending at the knee. Point your toes so the fin is straight. As your foot reaches its peak, snap it downward, straightening your leg. Repeat with the opposite leg, creating a continuous motion. And here is what it looks like diving. If you pair this with good trim, and you can even put your hands locked in front of you to streamline a touch more, you're going to feel some explosive power of the sprint flutter and really feel like you're cutting through the water. Perfect for emergencies or very temporary bursts to cut through the current. But, and this is important, you will burn out fast and you don't want to be tired diving. Sprinting underwater is no joke. Your body cannot get the carbon dioxide out fast enough, and that can build up and causing immense headaches, stress, and other issues in your body that can cause big problems. So, if you're going to attempt this, here is the golden rule. Short bursts only, not sustained. And before you even try it, check your environment and make sure you aren't going to kick coral above or below you, or kick up a large wake of sand or silt. You will absolutely destroy visibility if there's silt near you. Position yourself at least 3 meters or about 10 feet away from anything above you or below you. Some common mistakes include bending at the waist instead of keeping a straight body line. You want to avoid your knees dropping below your waist or you'll break your trim. Another one is not pointing your toes, reducing efficiency. Also, kicking too shallow, failing to engage the full leg. This is really a kick you've probably already been taught, and you are doing to some degree. It's quite inefficient and wears you down rapidly. Yes, this is the most traditional and the least efficient flutter variation, but when used properly, in the right moment, it can be a lifesaver. But use this kick sparingly, as the other variations of Flutter will be more efficient and proper in more scenarios. Alright, now let's dial back from the underwater rocket mode to something a bit more chill, the efficient Flutter and the modified Flutter. You can use both to excel in narrow formations, spaces, or in mild current. Using these two forms correctly should have competitive times of frog finning, because we are going to keep those powerful muscles, those strong muscles in our body and use them less. Wait. Less muscle? Doesn't that mean less power? Well, exactly. That's the whole point. You might feel this is a little unintuitive. After all, seems like we are missing out on a lot of power. But that's exactly why you tire so quickly. Those powerful muscles use a lot of oxygen and create a lot of carbon dioxide. The sprint flutter still has a place in your toolkit, but these more efficient forms favor less power and speed for efficiency. But before we get into how to do these kicks right, let's talk about a particular way of kicking that divers have lovingly called the bicycle kick. To the untrained eye, anything that isn't a sprint flutter often gets labeled a bicycle kick, but that's not accurate. The real bicycle kick, it's something we definitely want to avoid. A bicycle kick will look a lot like pedaling a bicycle, where your knees drop in rotation and your feet and fins move very little in a small rotation, and giving you minimal thrust as the power will come from moving the fins. And since you're not moving those fins like this and just kind of doing a small little shuffle like this and keeping them in basically lock, you're not getting too much thrust. You're just pedaling your knees. This isn't great because your knees drop below your waist, breaking your ability to balance and hold trim. Further, thrust originates from the blades pushing the water, and with minimal movement there, you don't get much thrust. Also, you're engaging your hips and thighs, big muscles, but no gains, so you'll tire quicker. Okay, now that we know what we don't want to do, I want to show you an efficient cruising flutter that was designed to be used around fragile environments and emphasizes control. Start with the hover position. Point your toes upward, slightly. Not much, but slightly. We are going to use those fins to push water backwards. Shift one leg out and back and alternate. Simple, right? But let me stress a couple key points. 1. Your knees stay in place, keeping maximum balance and not breaking your trim. 2. Your legs don't drop all the way down, straightening your legs. They stay mostly pointed up, and your knees remain bent. The reason why you favor pointing the fins up a little bit is you're favoring pushing more water behind you rather than up and down. You're going to try and push more water behind you. You will still get water down and up, but less. This disrupts the environment less with the fin motions especially. Now, if you need more thrust, you can bring your legs more down to nearly straighten your legs. This will kick more water downward and potentially disrupt silt, so you have to be careful with it. The wider stride on the kick does provide more thrust for mild current, but will also engage your thighs more. And if you need more power, you can always switch to the sprint flutter. On the other hand, if you need less thrust and are in a very close environment and favor precision or are slowly approaching something, you can do what is often referred to as the modified flutter. In this version, you'll basically do the same motion as I showed before, but the kicks are even smaller, like this. The modified flutter is perfect for slowly approaching an animal without scaring it, and maneuvering tight spaces where precision and control over speed needs to be emphasized. Whether it's the efficient flutter or the modified flutter, the goal is the same: smooth, rhythmic motion. Because of the controlled motion, it is safe to use around delicate environments like silt and coral. But be aware that motion hits on the vertical plane, so if something is directly above you or below you, go to frog finning. And a quick note, some instructors teach flutter with a stop and glide approach, similar to frog finning. Personally, I don't love that for flutter. Flutter is all about constant motion, at least to me, while frog finning favors more bursty but long glide motion. So I play to the strengths of the kicks, and if you do want a long glide, favor the frog kick, which I do agree is a superior cruising kick for most purposes. And now that you're aware of the strengths of the kicks, which should you choose for your go-to cruise kick? That is entirely up to you. The key is to understand the benefits of both fully and practice them. Now, let's be real. None of this matters if you don't practice. On your next dive, give all 3 variations a try to get a feel for them in the water. And throughout this video, I've been showing how to do them at home and giving a good idea of the form it takes and different ways of practicing the different variations. When you're practicing, start with the sprint flutter, but don't try to sustain it more than 10 seconds. Feel that burst of power, especially if you streamline your arms. You'll feel like a dolphin, and if you try and sustain it too long, a very winded dolphin. Then take your pace down several notches. Cruise with the efficient flutter for the rest of your dive. Really focus on keeping streamlined and flat trim. Don't drop those knees. Watch those knees. If you can't, get close to the bottom and try to flutter around without disturbing the sand or silt below you. That will tell you if you are pushing the water backwards or you're pushing it down. If you have a buddy filming, you'll get great feedback on whether your fins are stirring things up or staying clean. Or if the visibility goes to crap, you're probably doing something wrong. Try practicing tight maneuvers around rocks or other non-fragile objects. This is where the modified Flutter will really shine. Slow, precise, and in control movements. It's also your key to approaching marine life gently and getting close without a wake. Remember, Flutter uses the vertical plane. So if there's something directly above or below you, switch to frog kick. Even if you're a master of frog kick, it pays to build some fluency with Flutter. So practice switching between them. I want you to feel comfortable with both kicks. Refine your control, minimize energy use, and stay adaptable. Keep those thighs mostly locked down. Try not to move them too much because it uses a lot of muscle power. Bend at the knees, down. Remember to point your fins to push water backward, not downward. Like I said, you'll probably push some water downward and upward, but you're trying to focus on pushing more water backward. If you can flutter over sand without disrupting it, you're doing it right. As you improve your ability to round rocks, maneuver in small places, and fine-tune your rhythm, you'll master all 3 styles, and your entire diving toolkit will be stronger for it. Alright, if you made it this far, huge respect. You now know the strengths, weaknesses, and specific techniques for each of the 3 kick variations. You know when to use them and how to practice them. The Flutter isn't a beginner's fallback. It's a precision tool and a power kick for current. When used intentionally, it's powerful, efficient, and still elegant. If you like this breakdown, I've got the perfect video for you next. It walks you through the frog kick to complement this. I'll go through it step by step to help you refine that technique more. Then, and only then, you'll know which kick deserves to be your go-to cruising style. Watch that here, and if you found this helpful, remember to like and subscribe. The more you know, the more you'll love and protect the ocean. Until next time.